Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ron, and today we are going to be doing build guides for the Sludge Pump because the Sludge Pump got changed pretty significantly in the latest update for Deep Rock. So now we no longer have 3 options in Tier 5 like we once did, where there was armor breaking here. That is now baseline to the Sludge Pump, which is great. Some of its overclocks also got changed. So I'm going to quickly go over some basic builds that I use with the Sludge Pump if I'm not using overclocks, and then I'll be going over the builds that I use with each of the overclocks. So aside from the Sludge Pump just getting now armor breaking on it base, which is really good because it clears off armor from Praetorians, guards, wardens, anything that has a large amount of armor, they can just eat away at that, which is pretty nice. Its overall ammo, I believe, got nerfed, and its magazine size got nerfed, but it does more damage per shot. You can shoot it much faster than you could before. Sludge Pump got a really nice quality of life buff, just overall. The ways that I usually build this still remain mostly the same, at least without any overclocks. That's either going with an AOE build or going with a spam fire build. The spam fire build works much better now than it did before. So for the AOE build, usually I'll go with the air sensitive compound in Tier 1 to get larger puddles. This just kind of makes sense because I want to cover more of the area. In Tier 2, I like going with the atomized nozzle, although the charged shot is also pretty good. But the atomized nozzle makes it so that we get more fragments so we can cover a bigger area than we normally would. The extra ammo I find still a little bit more useful than the additional duration and puddle duration effect. It's not bad by any means, and if you find yourself having plenty of ammo, then take it. It is a bonus to the gun, and it is pretty significant. It's just that sometimes I do find myself running through ammo quick with a Sludge Pump. It really depends on what I'm taking as a secondary, and if I am like really using my drills a lot to kill things. In Tier 4, I like going to the spillback extension, but both of these are great options. This one just makes it so we are even more ammo efficient. You could argue that that's less necessary, and if you aren't running into ammo issues because of this, then you could go with the extra duration on it. That works too. And then in Tier 5, I like going with the protein disruption. This is the slowdown effect that makes it so we are slowing enemies down further than we normally would, both from the Sludge Pump's regular shots and the puddles that we leave on the ground. This is for all AOE. This is for crowd control. It works really well against most enemies. Most of the time you're going to be using charge shots for this, but if there's just one enemy, one grunt, or just a Praetorian or something, then you can just fire this one at a time. If you want to go with more of a damaging Sludge Pump that kills things a little bit faster, then I like going with the larger magazine size in Tier 1. That way we have 40 rounds in the gun rather than 20. Going with the extra damage in Tier 2. That way we just kill things a little bit faster when shooting one shot at a time. Going with extra ammo here. The extra duration really doesn't matter on this build because we're not going to be using charge shots too often. Yes, you'll still use them against crowds, and this weapon can still work really well against crowds, but you're probably going to be spam firing this more, so more ammo makes a little bit more sense. Tier 4, either one of these is good. It's your choice. Do you want to have more ammo when you're using your charge shots, then take the spillback. If you just want to have faster charge shots so that you just have a faster overall weapon, then take the improved spooling mechanism. And then in Tier 5, I like going with the acid. This makes it so we do a little bit more damage over time, as well as the puddles do a little bit more DPS than they normally would. This build does work better on like elimination missions than the AOE build does, but other than that, they should work fine on just about every mission. So let's go over the overclocks. First up, we have the hydrogen ion additive. This one I don't believe got changed. So now this one increases the slowdown from the sludge, which is nice. And it gives you a little bit more damage per second. I believe that it's accurately represented here on Karl.gg now. Before it was kind of wonky to determine how much damage per second it did, and it still kind of is. But it is a bonus. It feels just really nice on the gun. You can run this however you'd like. It is just a bonus. So if you want the spam fire build, you can run it. If you want the AOE build, you can run it. Usually I'll take the AOE build with this one. So I will once again go with air sensitive compound, atomized nozzle, extra ammo, the spillback extension, and the protein disruption. It's just a great thing to have even more slowdown on top of your slowdown. You can even stack even more slowdown with this if you want. You can stack slowdown from the microwave gun or from the wave cooker if you would like. I keep calling it the microwave gun, and it's sort of like that. You could also stack it with persistent plasma on the EPC. You could stack it with slowdowns from the neurotoxin grenades. You can stack all this and make everything really slow if you would like to. Our other clean overclock is the AG mixture. This one did get buffed. This one got its velocity increased, I believe, by 10%. I think it was 20%, as well as I believe that the air pressurizer got buffed too, because I think that this was only 20% before, I want to say. And now it's up to 40%. I have not tried stacking these to see how fast you could shoot this in a straight line, because I imagine if you take both of these, it's probably going to be really easy to hit just about anything. This one is a little bit odd. It makes it so your shots are less affected by gravity. With this, it doesn't feel like you have to lead your shot as much, nor do you have to account for the drop off as much. So if you really dislike that about the Sludge Pump, I would say give this one a try. If you're still not liking the speed, you could go with more speed in tier 1. I'm really curious if anybody's tried that. If you have, tell me how fast those shots go. Otherwise, I will just usually use this as a regular spam shot build because it is so easy to hit your shots. So going with high capacity tanks once again, going with the potent goo mixture, although any of these should be fine. Extra ammo in tier 3, faster spin up in tier 4, just because I like shooting it out a bit faster. And then the extra acid in tier 5 so that we do even more damage per second. I've been liking this build. It actually feels pretty good to use this one. This one always felt a little bit odd, and I still think it's probably the weakest overclock for the Sludge Pump. Well, there was one other overclock that I thought was the weakest for the Sludge Pump, but that one got changed too. So then we move on to our balanced overclocks, and volatile impact mixture also got buffed for some reason. I don't know why. This was what I would consider the second strongest overclock before on the Sludge Pump. So now it does double the regular shot damage and double the charge shot damage, with the downsides being that it has less damage over time effect and the puddles do not last as long. And this one feels really strong right now, especially with them increasing the rate of fire with this gun. You can spam it out really fast, and if you're like me, I like just shooting one shot at a time. You can still use charge shots. Charge shots do a lot of damage. As you can see, it doubles your damage here. So if you wanted to go with like the nozzle here, you would get 96 additional damage on top of that, which is pretty great. You can also go with the goo mixture here and then go from 16 to 48 damage a shot. Usually I like building this for a spam fire build too. So going extra tank size. In tier 2, going with the potent goo mixture. That way we have a lot of damage just with our regular shots. You melt through regular grunts extremely fast with this. You only got to shoot them once, which I think you can still shoot them once just with a base weapon and wait for him to die. But it does take a little bit of time from the damage over time effect. This kills them so much faster. In tier 3, I like going with the extra ammo. I'm going to be spam firing this a lot. I like it. In tier 4, both of these options are good. Once again, if you want to be using charge shots and be more ammo efficient, take the spillback extension. If you just want faster charge shots, take the spooling mechanism. I like the faster shots. And then in tier 5, it's kind of your choice. Do you want the slowdown or do you want the acid? Usually I'll take the slowdown with this, but the acid is nice. It's just that the acid doesn't last as long with this, so you still will be doing more damage per second if you take that. Alright, then we move on to Disperser Compound, which this one didn't get changed at all. Disperser Compound is still a great overclock. I'm not sure if it's the best one anymore for the Sludge Pump, because Volatile Impact Mixture did get buffed a significant amount, and it was very close to being able to beat out the Disperser Compound before. Now it's even stronger. I would say that it beats it out on like elimination missions, or if you just need more damage with your primary weapon. But if you need more crowd control, more AOE, then the Disperser Compound is still probably the best for crowd control for the Sludge Pump. So what this does is we get reduced charge shot damage, but we have increased charge fragment damage, and we have increased charge fragment count. So we have more sludge than we normally would. For this one, I build it all AoE so that we can deal with as many enemies as possible. This one's also really strong if you want to combine it with fire, either with your weapon or if your team has fire, then that's great too, because you can cover a big area in sludge and then light it all on fire. And then you have sludge plus all the ground fires plus all the slowdown from the sludge. In tier 1, I like taking the air sensitive compound. Bigger puddles when we already have more puddles is good. Going with the atomized nozzle so that we have even more puddles than we already did. You could argue that this one's less necessary, and if you want to go with the goo mixture, you can, just so that you can fire it out normally. You could also take the nozzle here and go back to the normal charge shot damage. That's alright too. I think that the other two are better options for this, but really there's not a bad option here. Tier 3, you can go with either of these. I do actually really like the slowdown effect on this because the damage over time effect lasts longer, the puddles last longer. If you're combining this with fire once again, it just lasts longer overall, but the extra ammo is also really great because then you can put out more puddles. In tier 4, I do like the spillback extension here because we will be using charge shots, and if I'm not taking the ammo, then I definitely like the spillback just so that I'm not running through ammo as fast. If I'm taking ammo, either one of these are pretty good. And then in tier 5, I like going with the additional slowdown. Since we already have big puddles, more puddles, longer lasting puddles, we might go for even more slowdown puddles, because why not? This overclock feels really strong against hordes. It feels still pretty decent against larger enemies if you just want to take out Praetorians and stuff. It's not as strong as like Volatile Impact Mixture, but it's still good. And then we move on to our unstable overclocks, where first up we have Goo Bomber Special, which also didn't get changed. The way Goo Bomber special works is once you fire out a charge shot, it goes in a straight line that then drops goo along the line. So you want to shoot it generally over stuff, because if you hit something directly, the goo line stops there. Same with if you hit walls, it stops right there. It doesn't have a splash like it did before. Now your puddles last longer than they did before. They also do more damage, and you have, or at least the fragments do more damage, and you have a larger fragment count. For this overclock in tier 1, I like going with the air sensitive compound. Bigger puddles, bigger area of a trail, makes it easier to cover more area than you normally would. In tier 2, I like going with the increased fragment amount. That way we're putting down even more goo than we already did. You could, once again, take the goo mix if you just want to be firing this one shot at a time, which you likely will be doing if there's only one enemy. You're not going to be using charge shots against everything. In tier 3, you can, once again, go with the longer duration here, and then you have a 24-second trail of goo that has even longer lasting corrosive damage over time. That's pretty nice. If you don't find yourself running through ammo, take that. If you do find yourself running through ammo, take the more goo canisters. Tier 4, I like taking the spillback extension, although if I am running this and I just want to fire it out quickly on certain mission types, like on salvage missions, I will just go with extra ammo, and then with the increased charge speed, the spillback extension just makes it so I'm not using up as much ammo as I otherwise would be. And then in tier 5, I like going with the extra slowdown effect, although you could once again go with the increased acid and do more damage over time. This one is definitely more of a supportive way to build it. This one's more of an aggressive way to build it. Both should work just fine, though, in most situations. This one works really well on escort missions because you can just keep firing trails behind you as Dottie moves forward, and you'll just clear up everything that's coming your way. It can also work really well on salvage missions or any sort of hold the point objective missions. So you just fire it in lines. Usually I like to make like a triangle and just kind of walk around on the inside of it while I just keep firing and resetting this. That way, enemies are forced to pretty much walk across it. There is a problem with this, though. If you have, like, Macterra Plague, then Goo Bomber Special is not usually the best. It can be difficult to hit them while they're in the air, especially with charge shots, but overall, Driller can sometimes struggle with just enemies that are far away because you don't have the longest range, or at least the most damage at long range, because now you have the Wave Cooker, which does have infinite range. It's just it doesn't do tons of damage per second. And then our last overclock to talk about is Sludge Blast. And Sludge Blast got changed a lot, which is great. So the way that Sludge Blast works is you pretty much get an acid shotgun, which I had joked about before. Sounds really awesome, but is pretty bad in practice. Now it's actually really, really good. Since the Sludge Blast now has armor breaking on it base, that is really useful. The downsides have been mitigated. There isn't as many downsides as there was previously, as well as this taking a flat amount of your ammo is far better than taking a percentage amount of your ammo like it did before, so now you can have more ammo than you did previously. Now the only downsides are that you get reduced splash damage, which is not a huge deal, and you also have a slightly longer reload time, which does make it so taking Born Ready with this, if you want to run it with a Sabata, is not actually a bad option. The problem with Sludge Blast before is that it was incredibly powerful, but it had so many downsides that it just wasn't really worth taking unless you were taking it on like a Dreadnought mission where it could really excel, because the Sludge Blast makes it so you can just fire it directly at an enemy and you'll do the same amount of damage regardless of where you hit it, as opposed to other weapons where you want to be hitting the weak spot or you don't really want to be hitting things in the armor. It doesn't really matter with Sludge Blast. Now, without as many downsides, Sludge Blast is actually really strong. It can still run into ammo issues, like some of these unstable overclocks can, but it can clear through crowds really fast. It completely destroys any large enemies really quick, too. If you have to deal with an Oppressor, if you have to deal with a Praetorian or a Dreadnought, you can just fire straight at it and deal massive damage now with the shotgun, just like you could before, but now it's a whole lot better. So the way that I like to build this in Tier 1, I like to go with the higher tank capacity. This is just so that I have more ammo in the gun and more ammo overall, because like I said, this one can run into ammo issues. In Tier 2, I like going with the Potent Goo Mixture. This is just so if I'm firing one shot at a time, I can clear up things a little bit quicker. I'm only really going to be using the Shotgun Blast against either hordes of enemies, flying Macterra, at least if there's quite a few of them, or something very large like an Oppressor. The rest of the time I'm just going to be shooting this normally, and I'll use it like a regular gun, so putting more damage on it kind of makes sense for me. In Tier 3, again, take more ammo. This sets us back to the normal amount of ammo, so we're not running into as many ammo issues as we would. If you're still running into ammo issues, you can go with Spillback Extension, but I really like having the improved spooling mechanism on this to get that really fast charge-up shot. That just makes it so your damage per second goes way high up, and you can clear through things like Oppressors, Praetorians, Macterra, dreadnoughts, whatever it is that might be in your way, you can kill them really fast with Sludge Blast. And then in tier 5, both of these options are pretty good. I'll still usually go with the acid to get me a little bit more damage per second, but you could go with the slowdown too. It works very well. So these are the ways that I build the new and improved Sludge Pump, which I feel definitely got a lot of love in this patch. So thanks for watching this. I hope that this gave you some ideas for builds in Deep Rock. Next time we're going to be taking a look at the Wave Cooker, and then we'll move on to the Shard Diffract. I probably won't be doing a video for builds on like the Drac, because the Drac did get changed a bit with both mods and overclocks, but I still build them pretty much all the same way. Special thanks to the supporters of this channel. These are my members over here on YouTube and my patrons over on Patreon. They get early access to videos like this, and if you'd like to be a part of it, you can. There are links down in the description. Thanks to everybody who does that. It really does help out the channel a lot. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye!